Good morning, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about wildlife in connection with electromagnetism and magnetism. Everyone knows the example of the flying ant, which, depending on the weather, will fly more or less low. For example, during periods of storms, we can clearly see the ant flying lower. This is also linked to the electric charge in the air, which fluctuates depending on the weather. This video will show the links between electromagnetism and wildlife. We will also see links to science, which is a very important tool for putting concrete rationale into moving forward more safely and efficiently. Sometimes, science ventures off the beaten path, and it's one of the Bibles on the subject to delve into magnetic crosses further into wildlife and the exchange effects of terrestrial geomagnetics about life. There are various studies discussed in this very large book of roughly 500 pages that inform us about the effects of magnetic fields on living beings. I have selected some studies for you, where on the left side of the table, you see the number of the studies in question. These studies have a special focus on wildlife and bees. They discuss topics like magnetoreception, ferromagnetic receptors, magnetic resonance, ferromagnets, magnetite superparamagnetic, and the influence of electrons by a magnetic field. I present this information to emphasize that science is actively studying these subjects of magnetoreception in wildlife. It is evident that wildlife has co-evolved with the electromagnetic environment of Earth, which is 4.5 billion years old. Wildlife has developed alongside electromagnetism on Earth and has evolved receptors to sense these magnetic fields. We will explore several examples linked to bees, birds, and humans in this PDF, discussing the destruction of nature by electrosmog. Ulrich Wern and his team have studied electrosmog. Electrosmog is essentially the electromagnetic fog that encompasses everything humans introduce as artificial waves and magnetic fields compared to those naturally occurring in nature. For example, when we use a cell phone, it emits frequencies around 200 Hz, which can disrupt the communication dance of bees. The same frequency, so we would interact. Also with the bees when we pass phone calls. So what is it that we see? We see birds that fly. We have discovered, at head level, by example of birds, and in others, animals of the nature of magnetite and magnetite at the nanoparticle level, which is composed, in particular, of oxide of iron. This makes it possible to detect magnetic fields and to be oriented in relation to the magnetic field, for example. It's well known, there you have half. You have a V formation, there we have the half in drive. Ulrich Wern's PDF and his team. I added the other half. What do we see? The birds or wild geese, for example. When they fly, it's true that they manage to go to the place where they want to go, to find their way around, and also to locate each other in space to not touch each other. So, there are these particles that also allow directing according to the magnetic field, the natural terrestrial as I said. You can also see, if we select a bird, there are areas of friction. There are areas of friction at some places where the bird, when they fly, is going to create some kind of loads, in fact, and electrical charges around them. The birds having these particles, it is a charge capture property, electrical magnetic fields, and themselves emitting charges around them. It would be one of the ways that they would, therefore, use to find their way around in space and prevent collisions. I invite you to read the PDF if you want to know more. At the level of bees, we saw previously there were lots of scientists who show that bees they are also linked to this electromagnetic environment. What do we see? We see the bee that has electrical charges also on its body. Then, at the level of her antennae, she can change the electrical polarities, especially for communication. For example, here's another example that we see in a study scientist whose name I gave you the source at the bottom. The bee, when it flies, its electrical polarity is often positive, and the flower is often negative. The flora in the flora is connected to the ground. She has a negative charge, and air has a positive charge. The overall air load of the atmosphere, it's 550,000. Let's sink, and the global load of the Earth is 550,000. Let's sink. Then the bee flies, and when she flies, in addition, she actually discharges electrons. Discharge electrons while flying. When it is going to land on a flower, what's going on? Well, she's actually taking electrons from the flora. The flora will donate electrons to the bee to recharge. It's like a small impulse of electricity every time an insect that has stolen or lost electrons and deposited them on a plant, causing small electric shocks. This could also contribute to electroosmosis, which is the movement of electrons across the earth through plants. The insect takes electrons, and as it moves, it stimulates electroosmosis, the rise of electrons in the plant. But it gets even crazier. In another example mentioned in this study, the bee does not see flowers like we do. In fact, she sees the flora as a form of communication between the flora and the bee. The electrical charge of the flora fluctuates based on whether it can be pollinated or not, depending on the number of insects that visit. The electric charge will change and send a response to the insect, indicating whether it can be pollinated or not. This is what scientists observed in the study. Moving on to other examples, we have a bee wing. What's going on with it? It is mentioned that there are electron circulations happening in the wings of bees, leading to electrical charges. Just like us, humans, who also have electrical charges in our bodies. If there is a cardiac arrest, someone will use a defibrillator to reactivate the heart. Another important aspect to understand is the electron circulations in the wings of bees, as well as the types of antennae they possess. Through a zoomed-in image from a scanning electron microscope on a bee's wing, we can see a part that corresponds to an electromagnetic wave. This correspondence with an electronic wave or electromagnetic part leads to bioresonance with the environment. This allows the bee to pick up and interact with electrons in the environment. Also, particles. So, we saw magnetite, especially at the nanoparticle level, that allows it to detect magnetic fields. Additionally, it has shapes that make it function as an antenna for electromagnetic waves. Another example is the butterfly, specifically the moth. We will now zoom in on these antennas, which have trails of different lengths. By selecting a few of these different sensitive lengths, we can capture different wavelengths. Light is a spectrum of electromagnetic waves, some longer and some shorter. For instance, the moth and the butterfly at night detect infrared light emitted by sources at varying distances. Their antennae, with different lengths, capture different parts of the infrared spectrum. This coevolution in nature enables insects to pick up various wavelengths with their antennae.
Ceci nous montre en fait que la nature, elle a coévolué comme on le disait au tout début, elle peut capter les insectes peuvent capter différentes longueurs d'onde avec
Now, let's consider the example of the human body, which also has parts that capture different lengths of waves. For instance, humans have TV antennas on their roofs to receive artificial waves, such as TV signals. In the book Life, The Secret of the Forest by Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird, there are schematic diagrams comparing insect antennae to human-made antennas. Human-made antennas are inspired by nature's design. In one example, B, there is a cone-shaped antenna found in some insects, reflecting shapes seen in sacred geometry and constants. Ces formes dans la géométrie sacrée, dans les constantes mathématiques universelles qui sont utilisées dans les constructions des anciens. Universal mathematics are used in the constructions of ancient builders. They possess mathematical properties found in nature, enabling them to capture waves and electromagnetics. For instance, a recommended resource to explore these concepts further is the book Into Nature by Philcolin Toujours et là. Les insectes sentent les plantes malades grâce aux signaux électromagnétiques émis. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Ça veut dire que les plantes aussi, elles émettent. An intriguing observation was made at a hall in 1985 regarding insects. Insects can detect sick plants due to the signals of electromagnetic emissions. This means that plants also emit signals in the form of frequencies and radiate electromagnetic waves. Certain insects have antennae to detect specific frequencies. When a plant is sick, it emits particular frequencies that attract the insect pest, which then proceeds to destroy the weak end or ill plant. Therefore, it is essential to address the plant syndrome rather than just the symptoms. The root cause may lie in the soil lacking essential nutrients for the plant, leading to the manifestation of symptoms through pest infestation. Rapidement, on pourrait développer bien sûr beaucoup plus, et pour vous donner des exemples de compréhension, je vous invite à aller lire les documents que je vous montre dans cette vidéo. Si vous voulez interagir aussi en commentaire, voilà, vous êtes les In conclusion, there are various phenomena around us that may not be visible to the naked eye. Our eyes are limited by the frequencies they can perceive. The visible light spectrum is only a small part of the electromagnetic waves that surround us. Just because we cannot see something with our eyes does not mean it does not exist. La lumière visible, c'est un tout petit spectre de la large gamme de ondes électromagnétiques qui sont autour de nous. Donc c'est pas parce qu'on le voit pas avec nos yeux. As we have seen, for example, some insects can detect certain frequencies related to their life or their role in nature. If you want to learn more about these electromagnetic methods, I have 2 books where I delve into an aerial and magnetic theme, as well as energy and basalt being influenced by magnetic forces. I also invite you to join the Facebook group I created, which is linked to Electroculture, to share experiments, progress together, and help each other. The group is called Electroculture with Permafuture, sharing and progress together.
avancer ensemble, s'entraider. Donc ils savent
For those interested in meeting, I am organizing an internship in Haute-Pyrénées at the beginning of April and will also be in Paris at the end of June for a 2-day, 40-minute course. For more information, you can visit permaculture.com. Additionally, I have created a short video to discuss this course, which is quite comprehensive but can always be expanded upon. The aim was to popularize and provide you with some insights on the topic. I will be releasing several videos this month, similar to the ones with a green background. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead. All the best and many beautiful things. Thank you and goodbye.